So I'm going to explain today a little bit about how our role models when we grow up have a huge, massive impact on us as adults. That the stuff we are exposed to and learn and take on as our truths when we're a kid becomes part of our identity when we are older. And how, of course, we can drop that and change that to shift whatever negative aspect of that is, so we don't live that as an adult. So this client came to me last year with a quite severe anxiety. We weren't necessarily dealing with the anxiety, medication was involved, but she wanted to just generally get some better concepts about herself, how she felt about herself, etc. So when we moved into the healing element of the program, one of the things that consistently came up in the coaching part was how she was always feeling responsible for her mum's happiness, which in turn actually affected her own self-esteem. So when we looked at one of the blocks that was needing to be released, in fact it was a forgiveness piece towards her dad. She grew up in an environment where her dad didn't treat her mum very well, to the point where her mum would come into her room, the children's room, at night to sleep, whether to escape some of the verbal abuse, just as a place of sanctuary, and or to comfort her child. My client grew up with this concept of men not necessarily being very kind to women, and a little bit worse than that. The impact that this left my client with carried on into her life, into her adult life, and she was carrying around guilt, she was carrying around blame, a whole heap of stuff towards her mum. But what we found when we went into the meditative state was she actually needed to forgive her father for causing this reaction in her mum, which then in turn was passed on and absorbed and interpreted as she was part of the problem as the young child. So the role modeling we have, the situations, the environments that we grow up in are so important, critical to how we see the world as a child, and of course how we adopt and integrate some of those insights and views as an adult. If you have people around your young ones that aren't a good influence, that are perhaps people that you wouldn't really like your children to have lots of exposure to because they're negative for whatever reason, a whole myriad of reasons, do the right thing, because they are having an impact and a negative influence on the way your children sees the world. And so for the first 8 years of our life, it's critical. That's where we develop our moral compass, how we see the world, her values, our belief system, all of that, or 75% of that is set in stone and becomes our way of viewing the world by the time we're 8 years old. 75% of how we see the world is programmed by the time we're 8 years old. We're conditioned by those 8 critical first years of our lives. That's profound. This is really important stuff to know. And the rest follows through adulthood, through juvenile status, etc. Be aware of the people you allow your children to be exposed to. Be aware of what they are watching on TV, the people they're hanging around with socializing, the teams they're involved with on the sporting field. Is it a negative team? Is it one that only celebrates winners? Is it one that's aggressive to the point of not involving and collaborating and being part of something more than self? These all have impacts on our children. That's all I wanted to share today. I will see you next week from my office here in sunny Brisbane. I will speak to you all soon. Bye bye.